out the Thanatos to go from a completely different strategy of aggressive, in-your-face Thanatos to go for more of a defensive setup style Athena jungle just goes to show a little bit of diversity on the side of Yenem, but he didn't really execute it as effectively as he wanted to. It could also be something that they've been practicing on scrims. Maybe there was like that 1 or 2 slight slip-ups that kind of just disrupted their whole flow.
Yeah, you can tell, and seeing the draft come out, you don't just go, all right, we made it to the finals, let's try something new. You know that that's something that they've played around with before. Unfortunately, they just couldn't really pull it off. Bans out. So I like this, actually. Thanatos, Chronos, same bans as last time, and they go, look, just in case, because they're thinking the same thing that we did. If you pick the Athena, you have a good Athena. One game doesn't mean you're terrible at it. Tell your ranked friends that as well. So you see that situation, you go, all right, look. You fool me once, all right, you messed up in game number 2. I'm not trusting you to mess up again, so we're gonna take your secondary pick. But backstab, go back to the Odin!
But this time, it's not Odin and Guan Yu necessarily. It's the Odin and the Zeus. You have a little bit more synergy between your mid-mage and wherever that Odin is going to go. That's a flex pick like we saw before going into that solo lane. I expected not necessarily to go in solo this time around. If it's going to be a Zeus middle, which it should be, it has to go in jungle or in the support position, this Odin.
And the Wheelish selection right away from PKO to make sure that Odin will have some tough competition across the way. A Wheelish, Hou Yi, Athena, these are characters that are going to work very well, and it's going to be the Odin and the Guan Yu and the Zeus.
But I like the Wheelish pick from PKO this time around to really deter the Odin from any sort of engagements. They probably recognize that it is going to be Odin non-solo lane, so having jungle or Wheelish here is going to prevent a lot of the damage coming from that jungle Odin.
Well, PKO not expecting to see it in the jungle as they ban out the Ao Kuang. So still banning out junglers here in our second round of bans. Sol and Scylla taken away by Backstabbed. So PKO will have to look for a different type of mid laner. Last ban coming out from PKO will be a pass. We see this here and there. It's not completely unheard of. Why go for the pass?
So sometimes you just want to throw the clock back at your opposition right off the bat. You don't really care necessarily what they're going to play, so you put the clock back on them. That might put a little bit of pressure, as well as Backstab V2. They could have been using the time during the ban phase for PKO to think of their next pick if they really wanted to. So instead, they're still going to like to go for this double sustain composition between Guan Yu and the Terra.
Raijin will be the mid lane of choice for PKO.
So Raijin hasn't seen much love recently in both SPL and SCL. More of these bursty mages, whether it's the Scylla, the Poseidon, even Giannis for the mobility is good for the portals. Not too much knock-up synergy for PKO off of the Wheelish. It's more about just shutting down this Odin.
A lot of interesting picks here. The Cupid will be selected one more time. Big area denial in that ultimate, but also the cripple is very important.
Especially against the Hou Yi in any sort of 1v1 encounter. This is the whole idea. Forcing the purifications in every single encounter is going to be the goal coming out of Cupid.
Yeah, he works very well specifically against the Hou Yi. The Wheelish is going to work very well specifically against the Odin. Let's get the game. It's game number 3, PKO versus Backstabbed. Winner takes all.
Winner is going to go home with 100 points in week number 1. Loser is still going to come out very comfortably with that 60 points. They're going to be able to go back to the drawing board and see what they did right, see what they did wrong, because both of these teams, they were able to 2-0 their oppositions in the semifinals, and they at least get 1 win. So whoever loses this has still done a good job overall in week number 1.
So you mentioned the fact that we haven't seen Raijin. Great. Step 2, why haven't we seen Raijin?
Well, like I mentioned before, it's more about the burst compositions for, let's say, the Raw, the Scylla, the Poseidon even every now and then, or you can go for more like the Zeus as well, and then you can go for like a mobile composition where you have the Giannis, which is just so powerful, let alone obviously through space and time, an unexpected one to just clip you in the late game, but you're also providing your team that mobility, whereas Raijin, he has a lot of all-in potential. He wants to be able to dash into a little area, so if anyone is grouped up on the side of Backstab V2, the Raijin is going to heavily capitalize off of it.
So very early in this game, no real threats for crazy invades or nothing?
I think Kabi might have stolen one of those with his passive.
With the reach?
I think that might have been stolen away. And based off of the graph there, that dip up, it actually looks like Kabi was able to steal one.
So for those, you know, that he drops the shield wall, not just in case, but to activate that reach passive, and that's why we're able to see that steal. Kabi with a very intricate small play right there. Love to see that sort of thing. Grouping up as 3 already before the minute mark. Very early on to see this grouping.
Normally, a lot of these supports will neglect the 1v1s in the Hunter positions, let them do their own thing, and just making sure that the jungler and middle will be able to control both mid harpies. The Fire Giant Elemental still not taken, surprisingly enough, though, by either side. Finally, though, making the rotation is going to be good old Pab, though, has substituted for PKO now instead of Malloy's.
Yeah, look at that. We have a new jungler here, so definitely going to keep an eye on how Pab works out and see how that'll impact it. Lizer versus Mango Man on this Cupid Hou-Yi matchup. Very different matchup. We don't usually see this come back together. I think the long and short of it is that Hou-Yi will win the lane clear fight, but if there is a one-on-one Hunter fight, I actually think I give it to Cupid.
It depends on if Mango Man is able to really find the ricochet off the wall to hit the melee minions and the archers at the same time, and that's going to allow him to out-clear the Cupid, but otherwise the Cupid is more about straightforward clear. He's going to be able to sit a little bit further aggressively, knock back the melee minions, and get the heart bomb off the whole wave.
And a lot of times you'll actually see Cupid opt to go for the poke instead of the wave clear specifically, because if you hit the opponent with the heart bomb, the opponent can't come closer to the wave to actually do any wave clear of his own, because then the heart bomb becomes a wave clear. So Mango Man's going to be attacked by 3 different players. Mango Man, that is toasted already with the heart bomb. First blood goes to the Cupid. 4-man rotation to the lane, though.
It's not that bad of an idea because it's the 2.5 minute mark. Buffs aren't responding for another 45 seconds anyway, and look at that dip for the gold-wise. We saw the first blood earlier on in the last game where there was a 5-man rotation in that mid lane, and they gave up 2 waves in both solo side lanes. But now Echo, he's going to jump onto instant connects. He needs to find just 1 sickle, and he gets the solo kill.
That was an impressive kill right there. Not deterred by the ultimate, totally just completely going for it.
And this is why Osiris is just such a big issue and why you don't necessarily want to put Guan Yu up against him. You have to play super careful and passive, which is why in game number 2, that Guan Yu wasn't in the solo lane. It was in the Guardian role, and the Odin was in that solo lane instead.
So Osiris seems to be a very specific character. We don't see him completely gone from the pick ban phase, but we also don't see him often. What is the specific parameter that you go for the Osiris?
It just depends on how much of a bully do you really feel like being. Obviously, the Guan Yu was picked really early in the draft before the second phase bans, and that gave PKO the opportunity to pick up the Osiris because the fact that it was a Terra, Guan Yu, and Odin being drafted by backstab, so they recognize like, okay, it's either Guan Yu or Odin more than likely in that solo lane, which Osiris is good against both of them.
Why not Robin? Why do you go specifically the Osiris?
So you go the Osiris because of the damage mitigation that you can provide for your teammates. Obviously, if you want to mitigate some of the mid-mage damage, you can go Khepri support for the Rising Dawn. You can go for the tether option from your solo Osirises. And this is going to help out your team fight, especially when you're always going to be aggressive and go in further, especially considering the fact that if you look at the draft coming out of Backstab V2, you see some sustain options from Guan Yu on Instinct as well as Fabulous on the Terra. If you're comfortable at connecting your ultimate on Osiris, you have 100% healing reduction.
Even the Cupid's going to provide some heart, so having that anti-heal available, I think, is a really big part of what Hysteria Echo is going to be aiming for. I say aiming for because that Osiris ult is not easy to hit, as you brought up. That's going to be a big part of what Echo brings to this team. Here he has to use the ultimate defensively, although he had some help from Kabi. Might have been able to stick around, but better safe than sorry.
I think that he definitely could have been able to stick around had he connected that. He's a level 8 Osiris. When you use that ultimate, you have all 8 stacks of your passive, giving you 16% damage mitigation for both physical and magical. So as a result, now, that could have been easy turnaround with an Athena on top. That double ultimate damage could have potentially just absolutely melted Instinct.
Man, don't underestimate that passive either. That's 16% damage reduction. Not protections, not health additional, damage reduction. And DR, damage reduction, is one of the more powerful stats. I mean, I joked about it with Aggro the other day about we saw a mid-build Mark of the Vanguard. I was like, that 5 is going to be a big deal. Jokes aside, it was against a couple of characters with dots. That adds up. So when you see 16%,
Oh,
that's incredible.
Instinct is in trouble. He got hit with a sickle and the 2. All he has to do is go back into the cavalry charge. He has to avoid one more sickle. He does. He's going to be able to walk away for now, but Echo, he might be in range to find it over the wall. Not in range.
It has a very short range on that ability. That's actually one of the more interesting abilities when you level it up. The radius gets larger.
Oh, but the radius of the Cupid ultimate is going to prevent Mango Man from walking out of that one. But now dashing through, Mango Man still on the worser end of that exchange. If he's not careful, this heart bomb is going to be available very soon. And that's why we see Mango Man having to retreat. But the rotation from the rest of his teammates wants to clean up this Cupid.
Yeah, you can hear PAB from behind. Feather Step is good, but that Cupid dash is so long, he's going to be safe. Ultimate out of the Osiris, not going to find the mark. But back over to the left side, a little bit of a fight here.
He needed to wait for the stun effect of the tether before committing to that ultimate. Get the guaranteed hit. You already committed, and you have the damage reduction from the tether, from your passives. Just jumping the gun a little bit was Echo.
A little bit too soon there. Just shy of 7 minutes on the clock, 1-1 here. Everything all even. Team separated by about 200 gold, which is nothing. Everybody really looking for their first chance to really put their foot on their opponent's throat. And this is going to be it for Backstab. They're looking for the Gold Fury. They know that Kabi's around. No Wrath available on the side of PKO. And Zeus is certainly there, so that's a scary situation. Either take the gold or take the fight. Right now it looks like Backstab going for the fight. Kabi's forced into the ultimate, chased out of the ring, and the Zeus ult is used. That's actually a bad look for a team that wants to find a Gold Fury.
Absolutely. You commit the Odin and the Zeus ultimate onto the Athena. She had to use that ultimate defensively just to get away, but at the same time, now the Athena has to back to base, doesn't have the ultimate to maybe use it onto Echo in that soul lane, which provides more of a leeway for Instinct to get back into the game. And if you look at Guan Yu versus Osiris, sure, Osiris will control the laning phase early on, but team fight wise, Instinct will really be the better end of it as long as he can constantly get the sustain off.
Still looking for the killer right here. Instinct just going to take a lot of damage from this Osiris play right here. Echo coming through in the clutch.
He's baiting a little bit, but it doesn't seem that Yenem really wants to commit at this point, especially considering the fact that Echo is ethereal. He has the damage reduction. He can also easily escape that Odin cage just by walking through it.
Yeah, not too big of a deal there.
And that's another reason why Osiris was probably picked up, just to be able to survive those ultimates. Walking through that cage is just going to be so important for his team. He wants to be able to get into the action with his ultimate, and if he's going to get ultied off and the rest of his teammates can't save him, well, he can save himself by walking through it.
It seems like Osiris is far from a one-size-fits-all god, but has a couple of boxes that you have to check if you want to pick Osiris. Do they have healing? Check. Do they have a god you can bully? Check. Do they have some sort of structure you want to walk through? Check. And all of them have been checked here for Echo. So I got to say, this is a fantastic selection coming out from PKO.
As well as being able to have a one-level lead thus far. Looking at the net worth as well, Osiris having a comfortable lead over the Guan Yu. Gold Fury being started though by Backstab. PKO, Kabi's in range, he finds the taunt.
And this should be totally fine with all the ultimates they have. Gold Fury goes down, it's Backstab. Still looking for the fight, however. There's a big one, kills on 2! Out of Backstabbed, DJ Humphrey and the support pick up 1. It's going to be 3-1 after all said and done. Let's take a look at the graphs to see just how that impacted it. Wham! Big lead for Backstab. They take the Gold Fury and they take the lives of the players on PKO.
That's the draft synergy in full effect. Odin ultimate, Zeus ultimate, Cupid ultimate, even Instinct making that rotation in time. So it's like, all right, I don't even care about getting bullied by Echo any longer. You can have my tower. I'm just going to be able to make sure that my team is going to secure the Gold Fury and win these team fights. Both of the teleports were on cooldown for the solo laners. Instinct had to walk on all the way over, and it paid off.
PKO get the stop they wanted in that mid-tier 1, however. Good defense right there. And when it comes down to it, totally Backstabbed here. They're off to a good little start, about 2,000, just shy of it at least. And it's very interesting to see how they've drafted, as you said, that you brought it up. One of the oldest strategies in SMITE. And we see Raijin bring out the big guns. Not enough to kill Humphrey, but here comes the Awilish. Feather Step is good, and the dash forward will secure the kill. That's going to be good for Arabiax. Fabulous drops his little help with the stun. Kabi's in trouble, can't find a way out. Does right side. Can't say the same for the jungler as Liza cleans up
2 for 1, 3 for 1 now as Eerie BX finds one. He wants to find the Cupid as well. The Heart Bomb connects, so it's going to be a 4-on-2 as Echo cleans up Liza. Instinct now making the rotation. He's not going to be able to stop Echo in time, and he doesn't really have the mobility to really want to chase down Mango Man, so the rotations has been able to really punish. Now we see the respawn timers from Yenem and Humphrey. They died before their ultimates came back, and this is why PKO grouped up in the mid lane and forced the team fight.
You see that time and time again. That's textbook SMITE right there. When an opponent goes for the objective, they use a lot of their resource to go for it, especially early on, like we saw this Gold Fury being taken on a couple of minutes ago. So with that in mind, definitely hit them while they're down. One of the oldest strategies is put a circle in a circle. You get the Odin ring, you put the Zeus ult in.
Sometimes you just got to put a ring on it.
Yeah, I mean that's going back to the ye old Dignitas days. You guys put best on Zeus and just put the ring on it. But now looking forward here, as more gods come out, more circle ults come out, and Backstab just drafted all of them.
Especially, like, you think about the ultimates that they have, it's between the Cupid and the Zeus. There's damage with a cripple, so you can't even get out of the damage even if you wanted to.
You're just stuck in the rainstorm. Right here, 2 players stuck in the cage, but really, no big deal either way. Kabi's just gonna watch.
Heading into
the grouping here, 4 players on the right side.
Heading into the 12-minute mark, currently PKO just wanting to feeling very confident right now that this Osiris is going to be able to outweigh Instinct, going for the Hide of Nemean line instead of the Breastplate of Valor, making sure that if he's ever going to get focused down by this Cupid, that Cupid is going to take a lot of damage in return.
3 very different builds here for Backstab's mid laner. Originally, we saw him go just boots into some power. Then we saw the Doom Orb in game number 2. And then here, we're seeing a thought of looks like a Warlock Sash.
It looks like it very well might be. Could also be Gem of Isolation, potentially, if that's the utility style that he wants to go. But now Echo, he could be in a little bit of an awkward position. 4-on-2 in that solo lane. Yenem not going to use that ultimate anytime soon, especially against the Osiris. And more members from PKO now equalizing the battleground.
So right now, 5-on-5. As we approach Bad Luck 13 on the clock. PKO trailing by about 1,000 gold. Nothing really too crazy, as it's even beneath that, only about 800. Nothing too crazy to get upset about if you're a PKO fan, or I guess on the team itself, listening back. But Backstabbed certainly are in a good spot to have a strong lead, and I think a lot of the focus is here in this solo lane.
And that's what you have to do when Gold Fury is still down. It's a very easy idea, especially considering how ahead Echo really is on this Osiris. They can't really stop him, even with these 2 members. You can stun him, you can root him, but he's just like Jason. He's just gonna keep coming back for more.
just always walking towards you. Yeah, Backstab version 2. Like I said, I think a lot of the focus is in the solo lane. Hysteria Echo versus Sting Instinct over here. These 2 players are going to be a big impact in the team fights. If Hysteria can continue the dominance that he's had in lane, I think PKO won't have to worry about a thing. But if Sting Instinct, however, gets the lead when it comes to these team fights, that's going to be an issue.
And that's why we see Instinct starting to build into that Winged Blade. He wants to be sure that anytime he's going to get slowed, whether it's going to be the Sickle, the second ability from Echo, or the Curse as well from him now, trying to mitigate even more of that anti-healing, he's going to be able to walk away faster, especially during the cavalry charge, and maybe catch up to somebody even closer.
On the flip side, that's why we see the Divine Ruin second item come out from the mid lane Ryzen. With that thought, first and foremost, as soon as we start team fighting, Guan Yu will be an issue. So he wants to make sure he takes care of that sooner rather than later. Oh, there's a couple of ultimates going to trap players into the rainstorm. Backstabbed off to a great start, but the HP isn't as low as they might have anticipated. Yenem gets 1, Liza gets 2. That's where Backstab wants to be. There's going to be the jump away from Echo, and right away, that's the tail of the tape. Sting Instinct. Bigger impact in the team fight than Hysteria Echo.
You can have all the anti-healing in the world that you want, but if you're not going to get off in the right timing, then that's going to be easy, and the healing out of combat for Backstab V2, utilizing that Tear ultimate and the monolith out of combat. Guan Yu constantly getting the meditations that he really wants to, and that Cupid ultimate was doing a good job because it also crippled good old Pap before the Feather Step. They didn't even have time to utilize that purification just to be able to confirm the kill onto Lyser. The hearts was good, the conviction was good, the meditate, everything was just perfect healing by Backstab.
Yeah, the Cupid played really, really well, and Cupid is a selection that I still maintain. I come out here every time Cupid is selected, and I say, look, even in the mid lane, as we saw him selected the other day, Cupid is definitely a viable pick. He doesn't have wave clear, so you have to pick him into the right situation, but he's a viable pick, and when he's viable, he's not just viable, he's very strong.
He could definitely snowball, absolutely.
He's very strong.
It's very misleading, his Harp Bomb, because it's a 10-second cooldown. The duration of the explosion lasts about 2 or 3 seconds, so by the time that's done exploding, it's about a 7 or 8 second cooldown remaining once that next Harp Bomb is going to come online.
And you're doing more damage as you build up that passive with the Heart Bomb. You get the stun out of it as well, and that's really the key. I mentioned the Odin Cage came down, Zeus came down, and the Cupid Ultimate came down, and the damage wasn't strong enough. It was the follow-up basics coming out from Cupid. Right here, we're looking at net worth. I bet you Cupid is at least 1 or 2 on the player damage after that team fight. And there he is. It's the basics and the Heart Bomb that are doing the damage, even when the damage is mitigated by Shell and other options that PKO has to their availability.
But it's no surprise, though, that Echo is leading that player damage to our left-hand side, though, taking a lot of damages. Mango Man committing to the chase, though, is Lyser, the great Sanctuary, keeping Mango Man alive for the moment, though.
So right now, we're taking a look towards, oh, there it is. I was actually going to bring up the fact that level 12 of Wheelish didn't have a second relic. It will be the Sanctuary, which is a strong selection looking at, we've been talking about these ultimates a lot, Toli.
The Zeus.
These are ultimates that can be sanced out.
You have to be able to time your Sanctuary to survive that triple detonate stacked from the Zeus. Any single time you're stuck in that ultimate, you might as well pop that Sanctuary, especially if your jump is on cooldown. Mango Man gonna get pulled, though, is the Odin on the right-hand side.
And there's the ring. It comes down, separating 2 players from their gank target. The Hunter's going to be totally fine, no big deal. Terry here as well in case PKO gets aggressive and wants to fight, but doesn't look like it. In fact, they're going to leave Hou Yi alone again. Echo panning the damage, and here comes Hou Yi. He's stuck. There's Beads, and there's Athena ult.
A lot of cooldowns were used on the side of PKO. Both of the relics from Mango Man. Finding the stun onto Lyser from behind is good old Pap. Gonna find the knockup. Purification was used onto Lyser. The Suns are raining down just to keep Copy alive for the moment. But 3-on-3 in the duel lane. And with these hearts and the sustain from Terra, Backstab will not stop pushing. They're gonna continue the pressure, especially with Zeus rotating here before the Raijin.
Yeah, I like that play coming out from the Hou Yi. He ults his own teammate, knowing that, well, clearly he's not going to do damage or heal him, but it deters the opposition from coming into that area to finish off Kabi. Love that small little play there coming out from the Hunter. And this is a big little play coming in, backstabbed, looking for the tier 1, but they're very quickly chased away, totally.
Smart play from Instinct to stay in that solo lane, though. Even though he doesn't have teleport, he could still potentially rotate to the mid lane if he wants to maximize his farm potential. Grabbing waves is more important at this point than grabbing even the tier 1 towers. And look at this, he's even staying to try to get that tier 2 tower. Everybody's here on the left-hand side for PKO.
This is a non-fight. This is a non-fight. Backstab.
4-man taunt, though!
But they're going to be forced to. The 4-man taunt forces out the ultimates, and they're going to force the issue. DJ Humphrey grabs one. Continuing on for more is Lyser trying to find the shots. Can't dig it. There it is. Gets it down. Number 9. And it's a love potion that Backstab are spreading. The Cupid has done exactly what he needs to do in this game. 5, 1, and 4. And look at that. The tier 2 tower goes down. Backstab didn't even want to fight.
Instinct's not done. He's going to go on the cavalry charge. He finds 2 hits, 3 hits. It's not going to matter. The Sanctuary has been used. Great job from Backstab V2. They turn around a team fight completely on its head. That was because the Raijin wasn't there to really capitalize off of the Athena taunt. Sure, you catch 4 people in the taunt, but it's only the Osiris that's very basically in position to capitalize off of it, which is not the only person you want.
And that was, you know, you gotta tip your hat to some of the finer points of SMITE, the positioning of Backstab. Now, it was very bad positioning, I think, objectively, you say, to group up near an Athena. But what was good positioning was the distance that they had between their opposition. They said, listen, we can do this dance and you could look at us. As long as they have vision they being Backstab, they know that PKO isn't invading their jungle or anything. They can communicate to the Guan Yu. This is a non-fight. We are not fighting. We do not want to engage. Don't worry. Stay in lane. And then they get forced to fight because they weren't perfect with their positioning, and they get taunted, but they're still able to figure out how to take that fight when they get engaged on.
And with that, the 2 for nothing, they found the tier 1 tower on the left. They almost got the tier 2 tower as well. They could potentially look for this Gold Fury. They don't have the ultimate from both Guan Yu or the Terra, so you have to be a little bit mindful about those 2 important cooldowns.
But you have the Wrath on the Terra.
That's true. That's going to be easy to execute, especially without any sort of Wrath opposition on the flip side. Zeus ultimate comes out. Kabi not even going to worry about it. Just going to give it up at the 20-minute mark. The goal lead from Backstab extending to beyond the 8,000.
I think Fabulous used the Wrath after it went down, just for extra
You got to make a
frosting.
statement, even to the Gold Fury sometimes.
There you go. We extra executed you here on the left side of the map, but the right side of it, left jungle. A little bit of engagement, not really much anything to talk about, but a little bit of flair and pizzazz. 21 on the clock here. 14 kills, excuse me, across the board, 9 of them belonging to Backstab. And the gold lead certainly belongs to Backstab as well. They're up by, as Toli said, 8,200 gold. To be a little bit more specific, hold that thought. We're going to add 1,500 to the pockets. Ooh. And that's going to be a large lead, 9.3, as Backstabbed are not doing what their name says. They are stabbing PKO right in the front.
That's what they have to do, and they're doing a great job at it thus far in the mid lane. Echo is in ethereal form. He's very quick as well. Has the damage reduction to be able to dive that backline, but it's going to be Echo and Yenim, though, trying to dive that backline, but instead going to get pulled away.
And even still, I think that's not a terrible situation. You're chasing out that Awilish ultimate, which does have off-label uses, so making sure that she doesn't get that attack speed and power is a very big deal. And Fabulous is actually going to get a kill. There's the final turnaround. DJ Humphrey was low, and ArabX gets credit for it. 1 for 1 so far. Up, down, out of the Odin. He's going to fall likely. There it is. ArabX gets his 2nd kill of the contest. There's 2 more for Backstab, however. It's a 2 for 3.
And with the rotation from Lizer having the hearts, it's going to be very easy now. It's all 3 sustained options from Backstab being alive, and it's against 2 tanky targets that don't really have good defense control on their side of things. It's more of a setup opportunity for Kabi and diving the backline from Echo, but you're not going to be able to dive anybody with a triple sustain.
Yeah, the fact that you've got the Guan Yu, the Cupid, and the Terror. I say Terror because that's exactly what she's been. Stunning, healing, just everything the Terror brings. Fabulous has been able to find it. Like Lizer finds the long-range heart bomb. 8-1 and 6 for your top player damage, Cupid. 22 minutes on the clock and 20k damage on the young gun right there. Love to see it.
And this Cupid was last picked from Backstab V2. They're doing a great job, and I like the mindset because there's so many ways it synergizes with the team composition. Obviously, you have the heart, so it adds on top of what Instinct and Fabulous already provides to the table. It has the cripple, which not only deters the Hu Yi in the 1v1, but hold that thought, good old Pap. Not there in time, the Wrath is going to confirm it, and Backstab finds the Fire Giant. And like I was going back to the Cupid discussion, you find the cripple on the Hu Yi, but more importantly, the Cupid ultimate also peels away the Awilish. If good old Pab is in range of that, you can't feather step.
Yeah, and Awilish has had a lot of issues. 0, 4, and 2 here for the jungle Awilish on PKO. Good old Pab. 2 things. 1, might be a little cold as he came in here for game number 3. Wasn't available for the early 1 and 2. But yeah, that Cupid, it devastates this Awilish pick. I love how this draft went because Backstab baited that Awilish pick 100%. They picked Odin nice and early and said, pick Awilish, we got the cripple.
They are using the cripple very effectively.